guys, this is not a full review of this pedal, there's lots of those online. This is just a heads up about a couple of potential issues that may affect your decision to buy it. Overall, I really like the pedal. I think it's my favourite sound I've ever had out of any kind of modelling, straight to PA, direct recording solution. It handles pedals really well, which is pretty unusual for one of these things. So if you want to hit it with a drive pedal, it'll accept that. Mainly on the drive amps, the clean amps are probably a little too hi-fi to have a kind of a raspy distortion. You're going to get some fizz in the high end, but it's more accepting of drive pedals than any other multi-effects I've personally used. So what is this issue? So there are two modes of operation for this pedal. One is an A-B mode, which allows you to toggle between clean and dirty, and the other one is a bypass mode, which is basically 1 amp and the ability to bypass the unit. So I do a gig where I'm going to go direct to PA, and I'm also going to do a gig where I go into an amp and I want to be able to bypass the pedal, and on the gig where I'm going direct to PA, I'm also using an acoustic guitar through the same board. So I want to use the same delays, the looper and the tuner pedal. I don't want duplicates of all my pedals for those two things. So I need to be able to bypass the atomic. So you do that by holding the left hand button down for an extended period of time, and it's quite a long time, kind of an uncomfortable silence on stage, but it allows you to bypass the unit and you just hit it again and it's off. If you were then to pull the power and go to your next gig, put the power back in, and then toggle back to A-B mode, it wouldn't have remembered the two patches. It won't remember which two amps you've assigned to the A and B. Now that's kind of an issue. Atomic told me that you should just leave it in A-B mode if you're going to use it like that, but that's not really an option for me. So you've got two options as I see it. You can either buy some kind of a loop or a line selector pedal and have this in its own loop so that you can take it out of the chain when you're not using it. That way this always stays in A-B mode. Or you could toggle back to A-B mode before you power down every time you use it. And if you forget, you're going to lose your patches. So how difficult is it to reassign the patches? Well, it's kind of easy and difficult in equal measures. These little position switches right here are where your user-defined parameters are stored. So this first one on the left here is when it's in the up position, it's clean, middle is dirty, and then the bottom is lead. And then the middle one here is 1, 2, and 3. So you've got 3 clean amps, 3 dirty, 3 lead. I've stored my favorite clean sound in clean position number 1. So I would toggle to the A side, and then I would flick this to all the way up, and this one all the way up, and that's now stored. There's no save button because there's only 2 potential locations for accessing it. So then you toggle to the B side, and then for me, my favorite dirty amp I've stored in dirty amp position 1, and so that's now saved in the B. So it's not that difficult to reset it. However, you haven't completely done it, because once these things will store all of the deeper edit parameters, it'll store cabinet IRs, whatever you've assigned to the boost function, the treble roll-off of the cab, the bass, all that kind of stuff. It won't have stored anything that's on the face of the unit. So your bass, middle, treble, gain won't have been stored in these patches. Neither will your volume level. So your volume balance between your A and B won't exist anymore. If you've taken the time to really like dial it in so that when you step on the B side it's a solo boost, it won't have retained that information. By the way, master is the master volume of the amp, level is the level of the patch. So yeah, when you first flick to a position with these switches, wherever these dials are is the amount of volume, level, bass, middle, all that kind of stuff that you're going to get. If you were to put everything on full and flick to a patch, that patch would come on full tilt. Much like turning on an amplifier with all the dials on 10, that would be pretty loud, and this would be exactly the same. So I guess what they're doing is like having two amps. If you had an amp on stage with you, you'd remember your basic parameters and you'd tweak from there based on the room. It's just a shame because, you know, a multi-effects, one of the benefits of it is that it remembers some patches. The advantage being, anything that you tweak on the fly is not committed to the memory banks. You haven't altered your fundamental patch. All these things that you have access to, you've got access to them the whole time. So, you know, it's not that difficult to alter it on the fly. You don't have to press save every time you make an alteration. If you happen to be an A side, on the A side you make an alteration, it's only going to affect the A side. When you go to the B side, then you'd be affecting the B side. You can't access, this is another flaw, but not a flaw. I mean, it's a very compact unit and you're going to make some kind of sacrifice in terms of flexibility. The right hand side, the boost function, there's no way of accessing any of those parameters on the fly. You have to do it through the app. That's okay, I guess, but say you had a delay tail end that was totally over the top and you wanted to attenuate it, well, you'd have to have the app running. So maybe the first time you use it live, you want to run maybe an iPad or something into it, tweak it, and then I guess it's like a set it, forget it thing. I'm using it in amongst other pedals, so I get to tweak those other pedals, and I'm just using this as an amp, which I think is one of the main benefits of this. Another issue that I've found, when I first got it, I was having some huge mains hum issues. It doesn't like working with certain pedals. So my Keeley Fat Mod, it wasn't having huge like bass rumble, almost like a feedback loop. But it was a mains hum. So Atomic told me that it was because I wasn't using their proprietary mains power source. Again, not the end of the world, you could use that, but if you're using, as I am, and I guess most of us are, some kind of a mains power brick with an isolated power, you're not going to want to then run a power out to the front of the stage and a wall warp for one pedal. That's kind of a pain in the ass considering that this runs off 9 volt and should just run off the same as everything else. With the right combination of pedals, I'm not having any issue now, but I've never had any issue with any other pedal using that power source, so it's a choosy little sucker. You may or may not have issue with it. It would be interesting if anybody else has had any issues with that. It was difficult to get it to be completely silent. It is now, so there's that. Okay, one last thing. This switch on the end here, this last remaining 3-position switch, allows you to assign the model to either the quarter inch out or the XLR out, or both simultaneously. And one of my concepts for this when I first got it was I was going to put this at the end of my pedal board, run my pedals into it, not have the effect on the quarter inch out and just go straight into my amplifier, and then have the XLR go to the desk, and any house engineer or whatever would have a consistent level coming off this, and then I'd be free to tweak my amp completely independent of this by coming out of the dry out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because whilst you can turn off the cab model, you can't turn off the amp model. So in effect, you'd be stacking preamps. You'd have the preamp of the pedal going into the preamp of your actual amp. So you could, I guess, come out of the quarter inch and go into the effect return of your amp and just use your amp as a power amp. I don't want to do that because I like the sound of my amp. I just want to use it with my regular pedals, and my pedals will be driving this amp and they'd be driving that amp. You could do it using some kind of a splitter cable or a splitter box, but it would have just been nice to be able to do it internally. Apparently, Atomic are thinking of possibly in the future addressing that issue with a firmware update. I did speak to them about it. I think that would be really useful. Okay, that's about it. I've done a lot of talking in this video, so sorry about that. There was just a bunch of things that I thought might be useful to you if you were thinking about buying it. Consider dropping me a like on the video, maybe even sharing it, otherwise it'll just vanish into a corner of the internet, never to be seen ever again. And hopefully, maybe I'll see you guys in one of my other videos. Later.